It turns out a lot of people panic-bought PCs to avoid RAMaggedon 2026. More on that coming up, but first, Apple has secured a major victory for its redesigned smartwatches as per the latest decision from the U.S. International Trade Commission. The federal agency ruled against reinstating an import ban on Apple Watches, allowing the tech giant to continue selling its devices with a reworked blood oxygen monitoring technology. The ITC decided to terminate the case and refer to a preliminary ruling from one of its judges in March that claimed that Apple's redesigned smartwatches don't infringe on patents held by Masimo, the medical tech company that has long been embroiled in lawsuits surrounding the Apple Watch. Apple thanked the ITC in a statement, adding that Masimo has waged a relentless legal campaign against Apple, and nearly all of its claims have been rejected. We reached out to Masimo for comment, and we'll update the story when we hear back. The latest decision could offer some closure to the long-standing legal feud between Masimo and Apple. The patent battle dates back to 2021 with Masimo's first filing against Apple that requested an import ban on Apple Watches. The ITC ended up ruling that Apple violated Masimo's patents, resulting in the previous import ban and the Apple Watch maker redesigning the blood oxygen reading feature in certain models. However, Masimo wasn't satisfied with this conclusion and sought another import ban on the updated Apple Watch models. Now that the ITC has ruled against that, Masimo is left with the option to appeal the decision with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. And a judge has granted the makers of the ICE Sightings Chicagoland Facebook group and the Eyes Up app a preliminary injunction to stop the Trump administration from coercing platforms to take these projects down. Judge Jorge L. Alonzo of the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois found that the plaintiffs, Cassandra Rosado and Crisao Group, are likely to succeed in their case, which alleges that the government suppressed protected speech under the First Amendment by strong-arming Facebook and Apple into removing ICE monitoring efforts. Both Eyes Up and ICE Sightings Chicagoland use publicly available information to keep tabs on ICE activity. But after pressure from Trump officials, they were removed from Apple's App Store and Facebook, respectively. Similar apps, including ICE Block and Red Dot, were also taken down from the App Store and Google Play. The lawsuit cites social media posts by former U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and former Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem that demanded and took credit for the removal of these apps. In a document filed on Friday, Alonzo called these posts thinly veiled threats. Remember, you can find the latest tech and gadget news, reviews, price drops, and more right now at Engadget.com. The specter of price hikes caused by the current AI-driven demand for memory and storage appears to have convinced a fair share of people to buy a new computer. According to data analyzed by Counterpoint Research, global PC shipments grew around 3.2% year-over-year in Q1 2026. Driven by preemptive buying before memory-led price increases hit the retail level, and Microsoft forcing some customers to upgrade by ending support for Windows 10 last year. Sales hit 63.3 million units during the first quarter, Counterpoint says, and were particularly concentrated in 5 high-end PC makers: Lenovo, Asus, Apple, HP, and Dell. Of the 5, Lenovo commands the most PC market share at 26%, but sales increased for almost all of the companies, save for HP, whose year-over-year sales technically declined by 5%. Of particular note, Apple's PC sales grew by 11%, likely on the strength of the M5 updates it made to the MacBook Pro and MacBook Air, and the introduction of the affordable $600 MacBook Neo. Counterpoint suggests the updates could drive even further sales growth next quarter. Even with positive sales, the PC industry as a whole is by no means out of the woods. The aggressive expansion in AI infrastructure investment is driving up overall component costs, which will likely impact the pricing of CPUs and other key components in PCs, Counterpoint senior analyst Min-Soo Kang says. Kang continued, ultimately, the sustained upward pressure on costs and the resulting hike in retail prices are expected to have a significant negative impact on the PC market's growth in 2026. A general sense that the worst is yet to come is consistent with what other analysts have warned about the current shortages of RAM and storage. In December 2025, IDC predicted that PC shipments could drop as much as 8.9% in 2026 in response to the price of RAM, and later revised its prediction to 11.6% this past March. Even if customers aren't feeling the worst of these price hikes just yet, new announcements of price increases seem to arrive like clockwork every few weeks. For example, this week, Meta raised the price of its Quest headsets, which means if they aren't feeling them now, they will soon. Thanks for listening to the show. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Today's show featured journalism by Engadget contributor Ian Carlos Campbell and Jackson Chan and was produced by Spoken Layer. I'm Imran Sheikh, and we'll talk more tomorrow.
Spoken Layer.